Up, up, up. Welcome to Vintage Garage. Glad you're here. We have another full show this week. First, we're going to recover the leather steering wheel in the Royale RP2 that we've been restoring. After that, we're going to take a field trip to watch the vintage races at Trail-way Speedway, just west of Hanover, Pennsylvania. After that, we'll mount the 6-point seatbelt and shoulder harness system in the Royale RP2. So stay tuned. We have a full show today. Glad you're here. This is the 1968 Royale RP2 that we've been restoring. Last week we mounted the mirrors on the car. This week we need to work on the steering wheel. We think this is the original steering wheel. The leather covering has come off. The first step is to remove the steering wheel from the car so that we can take it over to the table and work on it. The hex socket is usually the weakest part of the screw. So we hold the Allen wrench in there, but we really turn the ratchet to loosen the nut. Once we have the nut nice and loose, we can use the Allen wrench to spin the screw and remove it from the steering wheel. The back of the lower screw is blocked by the mounting bolt for the hub that holds it onto the steering column. So we're going to have to use a box end wrench to turn that one. Okay, and once we have it loose, we can turn the bolt with the Allen wrench. That's our steering wheel. Looks like we got a lot of work to do on that one. Let's move over to the table now and start work on the wheel. We bought this Super Skin leather steering wheel cover made by Superior at Pep Boys, and it was only $14. Now it doesn't fit the wheel, but it provides all the materials we're going to need for this project. In particular, we get a real nice piece of leather. We also get a couple of needles and a little bale of heavy thread that we're going to use. It's a real shame. This was a really nice piece of workmanship. Okay, that should do it. We have the original wheel now, all nicely stripped down. We have our stitching instructions, our small bale of heavy thread with needles, and our steering wheel cover. Now the steering wheel cover is way too big. We have a 10-inch wheel. That steering wheel cover is made for a 15-inch or 16-inch or larger wheel, I'm not sure which. So the first step is we have to modify the cover so that it fits our wheel. This cover has two seams in it, one here and one there. So there's one short piece of leather and one long piece of leather. Unfortunately, the long piece of leather isn't quite long enough, so whether we use the long piece or the short piece, we're going to have two seams. The next step is to break one of the seams. We'll study the two seams and decide which one is the best workmanship, and it's this one over here. So we'll cut through this one. We've now carefully removed all the stitching from the joint we took apart. We still have a very fine line of tiny holes along this piece, and we're going to reuse those holes. But now we have to cut our piece of leather to the right size to fit the steering wheel. We stretch the leather around the steering wheel as tightly as we can. Then we're going to make a mark on the leather where we need to make our new joint. That'll be right there. Okay. One half of our seam still has the line of small holes for the thread that we preserved when we cut it apart. But now we need to make matching holes in the other piece. So we'll use our awl and we'll just make a hole in the new half. That's exactly next to the hole in the old half. Using a ball peen hammer just to save our hands a bit. We're not hitting it very hard. We have some carpet thread that appears to be the same thickness as the thread in the original seam, and we're going to sew up our new seam right now. We'll start on the back side so that our knot is hidden. We have 3 stitches to go in the second and final row, and we'll be done with making up the seam. Okay, that looks nice. Now we'll make a good knot on the back side and tie it off good. We start by getting the wheel centered in the cover. Okay, that looks good. Then we make sure that our 2 seams are centered on the bottom spoke of the wheel, and they are. Okay, now we just need to lace the cover up. And to do that, we're going to follow the instructions in the kit exactly. We have to be sure that we go to the right hole on this side. And that's that one. We've now finished stitching the wheel from the bottom spoke where we started, all the way around to this spoke and a little beyond. We've also put on a pair of leather gloves. Our fingers are starting to get sore from pulling on the heavy thread. We've now worked 3/4 of the way around the wheel. We started over here at the bottom spoke, and we've gone all the way around, and we're just past the last spoke, and we're going to continue stitching. It's a rather slow process, and it's very hard on the hands. We're now working on the last stitch. We haven't made any mistakes so far, and the number of holes on both halves of the part that we've been sewing match up. So we have no extra holes and no missing stitches. Now we'll cut off the ends. We'll leave about an inch extra length. And using a screwdriver, we'll tuck the loose ends under the leather to where they're hidden. And now we're done. The wheel came out great. We have two seams here at the bottom that really won't show, and generally the driver's hands aren't at the bottom of the wheel anyways, they're up here on the sides. And we got a nice tight fit. The leather's smooth all around. If we didn't know better, we'd think that was an original job. Let's go back over to the Royale and mount the wheel on the car. We're putting a flat washer and a nylon filled aircraft nut on the back of each screw. And we're just starting them by hand. Hugh Kleinpeter from Royale USA heard that we were restoring this RP2, and he was kind enough to send us a Royale decal, which we're going to put in the center of the steering wheel and finish the job. First we'll wipe the area again with lacquer thinner. And we're done. The wheel is back on the car. Has a nice brand new leather surface. The stitching came out real nice and tight, and we're real pleased with the job. Our hands are pretty sore after that project, so we're going to take a break. Tonight we're going to drive up to Trail-way Speedway, just west of Hanover, Pennsylvania, to watch the vintage races. They put on a great show at Trail-way with a full field of 4-cylinder cars, 600 sprints, and the ever-popular figure 8 cars. Tonight they also have vintage cars. So let's head on up to Trail-way Speedway and check out the action.
Glad you can be with us here at Trail-way Speedway. It's going to be a great night of racing action. We want to welcome you. My name is Joe Mangle. I'm your Speedway announcer, bringing you all the action tonight. Wing 600 sprints, 4 cylinders, vintage cars, and of course the ever-popular figure 8. Glad you can be with us.
We just arrived at Trail-way, and the vintage cars are out on the track warming up, so we came up to the grandstand to watch. We're now down in the pits and we're walking around looking at the cars. There's a great field of vintage cars here tonight. This is the first time we've seen Wing 600 sprints, and they're most interesting. If we ever get back into modern racing, this is probably the class we'd choose. The cars have a Honda 600 motorcycle engine, and they really go great. At pit out, the 4-cylinder cars are taken to the track for their warm-ups. Let's go up to the grandstands and watch them. The track's still a little damp and the cars are bedding in the track during warm-ups, and as the warm-ups proceed, the track gets faster and faster. Track conditions are really good now as the Wing 600 sprints finish their warm-ups. It's now about 20 minutes later and the sun is going down, and it's time for the first 4-cylinder heat race. The Vintage Sportsman class are next on the track for their heat race. The first feature of the evening is scheduled to be the winged 600 sprints.
Race fans, it's time now to kick off the 20-lap 600 wing sprint feature final. And this will be your starting lineup. Scheduled 19, driving car number 15, it's Brian Schaefer. Going 18th outside row number 9, it's a 16 of Scott Dellinger. To his inside, it's a 77X of Tommy Wales. In row 8, it'll be the 77 of Larry Thompson and the 9X of Dave Wilson. Row 7 is made up of the 29 of Jared Ferry and the 2T of Ronnie Taggart. Starting 12th, the 56 of Joe Birch, and to his inside, from the Racing Leppo family, the 71 of Brian Leppo. Starting 10th, it'll be the man who's 6th in points, driving car number 9 for Doug Dodson Transport, Dusty Easton. He'll start 9th, driving car number 12 tonight. It's Gary Succi Jr. With one feature win, 8th in points. He starts 8th tonight, driving car number 55. It's Chris Arnold. To his inside, with 2 feature wins, a 7H, starts 7th, Tommy Hesser. In row number 3, it's your current points leader with a pair of wins here at Trail-way this year, driving car number 6, Drew Heaston. With 2 feature wins, 3rd in points. Starting 5th, the car number 91 of Lyle Stroman. The 8U coming off a 250 win last night, a 600 win last Saturday. 5th in points, George Ulmer. Starting 3rd, 4th in points, the 18D of Tim Dietz. Race fans, your front row for the Wing 600 sprints. Outside pole, it's the 5 with 2 feature wins, Lucas Wolf. And your pole sitter tonight, coming in 9th in points, the 14 of Randy Reed. Starting on the pole, driving the beautiful number 94, it's Mike Martin. Outside row 1, Wild Willie Brymesser in the 113. Row 2 will be made up of the 911 of Fred Thompson and the 4A, the 4 aces of Larry Feldy. It'll be Stu Wyrick in the number 1. He'll start 5th, going 6th to 16 of Bill Schaefer. Starting 7th, the 72 of Ray Check. And then the 49er, Sean Coghill, starts 8th. Rounding out the 9-car field, the double 4s of Tommy Smith. Vintage Sportsman feature, 12 laps the distance.
and we're looking forward to getting back. Right now it's the next day. We've taken off the body on the Royale RP2, and it's time to install the seatbelts. The old seatbelt and harness system that came with the car is thoroughly worn out, and it was of a latch type arrangement. We bought a brand new 6-point setup from Simpson, and this has a cam lock buckle. We prefer this type of buckle because when you're in the car, the bar on the front of your helmet blocks the view of your lap, and you have to do everything by feel. So this is a real handy setup, and it's one that we prefer. So now let's install this in the car. The first step is to take the seat out of the car so we can see what we're doing. We see the seatbelt mounting bracket on the main tube of the car, and we'll fasten our lap belt and also our submarine belts to that bracket. There's a similar bracket on the other side of the car right here. The shoulder harness passes through the access hole in the panel behind the driver, and we'll bolt it to the mounting point on the chassis there. We'll use a ratchet and a 5/8 socket and come down from the top, and we'll hold the back of the bowl with a 5/8 open end wrench, and we'll tighten that in place. We'll insert a 7/16 high-grade bolt into the mounting bracket on the chassis. Then we'll put a flat washer over the bolt, then the anti-submarine belt. We'll bring it out forward into the foot area of the car. Then another flat washer. Then we'll put the lap belt on the bolt so that it can pass over the lap of the driver. Then we'll put on another flat washer. And lastly, we'll put on a nylon-filled aircraft nut to hold it together. And then we'll tighten it up with the socket and the 5/8 open end on the back. We've now finished installing the 6-point harness system. Next step is to put the seat in the car and adjust the belts. The submarine belts come up from below, keep the driver from sliding forward in the event of an accident. The lap belts cross over, and there's one on either side, and they meet in the middle. The anti-submarine belts pass through these loops on the lap belt. Then the shoulder harness passes through that loop in the anti-submarine belt and into the latch. We'll repeat that on the other side. Last step is to tighten the shoulder belt and make sure that it's got a nice tight fit and doesn't run out of adjustment before it's tight. And we're done. We have a nice tight fit on the shoulder harness, a nice tight fit on the lap belt, and a nice tight fit on the anti-submarine belts. We're looking forward to driving this car in a couple of weeks. Well, that's it for this week at Vintage Garage. We had a great time, glad you were here. First, we recovered the leather steering wheel on the Royale RP2. That was a tough job, but a satisfying one, and it came out great. Then we went to Trail-way Speedway. After a single visit, it became one of our favorite stock car tracks. Their website has a complete schedule for next season. If you missed the address, there's a link to it from our website. After that, we installed the 6-point seatbelt and shoulder harness system in the Royale RP2. That was an important job, and we're glad to have that finished. Next week, we have another full show at Vintage Garage. We need to engineer and install a fire extinguisher system for the Royale RP2. After that, we'll remove the gas tank, box it up, and send it to Fuel Safe so they can duplicate it with a modern fuel cell. Lastly, we need to load the Titan Mark VI into the transporter. This is the car that we've entered at the HSR Savannah Historics in 2 weeks. We plan to get some good in-car video, scenes from around the paddock, and interviews with some of the other drivers and crews, so that should be a lot of fun. So until next week, thanks for coming. Keep the shiny side up. We'll see you in a week. If you'd like more information about any of the projects we've worked on today, please visit our website at www.vintagegarage.com. There's a link to our email address on the website. Please email us. We'd like to hear from you. Till next time, keep the shiny side up. Thanks for coming. See you next week.